Hello, fellow learners. Today I'm excited to present a lesson that I actually really do enjoy, and that is the steps to reading a political cartoon. However, before you get into the rest of the lesson, I would like you to pause this video and take time to look at the op-ed piece that I have linked for you. This is an op-ed piece from the New York Times from July of 2019. It's titled All Presidents Are Deporters in Chief, and it is an article about how the immigration system has worked, not just with this particular administration, but previous administrations, and that every president faces issues of deportation of non or undocumented immigrants into the country. When you have finished reading the article, please then return to the PowerPoint and this lesson, and I will go through the steps of how to read a political cartoon properly. Welcome back. Now, as you read that article, some of you will agree, some of you will disagree. That's kind of the point of an op-ed, is to get people to think about what their positions are. And I'm asking the question of you, as you read that op-ed, what kind of images came to mind? Because you were looking at the verbal opinion of someone. What would the images look like if that particular position that person held was put into a visual rather than it being a verbal exchange of ideas? Now, I'm going to flip the process on you, and I want you to look at this cartoon, and I'm just going to give you a few seconds to take a peek at this cartoon. It is a cartoon that was found in the Philadelphia Daily News, and it is also a cartoon dealing with immigration and deportation. So you've now had the opportunity to read an op-ed on a topic and now see a political cartoon basically of the same topic. Now, once you looked at the image and you have viewed that political cartoon, now I want to ask the question, what words come to mind? If someone was going to take that particular cartoon and put it into a verbal presentation, what kind of words, what messages would they want to send through words rather than the image? That is what a political cartoon is. A political cartoon is simply looking at an image and understanding a bigger picture in a visual rather than reading someone's views. You're now seeing someone's views through an image. Very similar to the one that I have on this page. There are really, in my mind, there are 4 steps into properly reading a political cartoon. And step 1 is the most basic, but it's one that people miss. And this is to literally identify what it is you're seeing in the cartoon. If I were to give you an article to read, I would ask you the basic questions of who, what, where, why, and when. Well, same thing applies to a political cartoon. As you are looking at the cartoon, you need to consider a few things. Who is the character in the particular cartoon? Where is this cartoon taking place? Is it taking place in a particular state, the United States, a different country? You kind of want to place that where you think that action or the image of that cartoon is taking place. What is literally going on? And when would this cartoon be happening? Because if it's a historical cartoon, that needs to be taken into consideration when you're trying to figure out what is the meaning or what is the opinion of the cartoonist in drawing this. So if we were to apply this, we would literally, in step 1, who is in this picture? A donkey. Where is this? That one's kind of hard to just get out of that picture when probably 2019, since the arrow is pointing forward at 2020, and a donkey is standing with a number of saddles. We're literally getting down to just what do you see? That is step 1. Step 2 takes you a little bit deeper, and it says, look at the symbols in the cartoon. Because when you're looking at the symbols, there are clues as to what the artist is trying to get you to see. One thing I really want to point out that artists are very good at is facial expressions of characters. Never, ever dismiss this. Anytime you're looking at a political cartoon, check out the facial expressions of the characters the cartoonist is drawing. If we look at the symbols, I'm just going to throw a couple of them up at you. If we look at this particular symbol, Uncle Sam, what we're seeing in this, we're not representing any one person. This is basically, Uncle Sam is portrayed as the United States or the people in the United States. If we happen to come across a dove, or the dove here has an olive branch, we're looking at a symbol that represents peace or unity of some sort, resolution. If we start to get into the donkey and the elephant, now we're talking about political parties. And so these go back to the mid-1800s. Elephant representing the Republican Party and the Democrat being represented by the donkey. So those are symbols you want to keep in mind, including facial expressions. This is a good one because there are a lot of symbols in this. Now remember step one, who, what, where, and when. Okay, who's in the picture? What do we see literally happening? Where is it happening? And potentially when? We know it's happening in the United States because of this fence. And this is supposed to be portraying a fence. We understand that this symbol here is the Grim Reaper. Okay, the Grim Reaper representing death. But this Grim Reaper has a unique symbol on it that it's wearing almost what looks like a child's wig. Another symbol you might pick up in this image right here with the man's hands. He's giving that rabbit ear quote action. And he's quote unquote, women and children are here. That is a symbol. You're also getting a symbol of the opioids down in the corner. So once you start doing the who, what, where, and when, and you get that mentally in your processing, and then you start looking at symbols, the cartoon is likely to start making more sense. Step 3 then is what helps us understand the context and possibly the why that's taking place. Like op-eds, political cartoons are often connected to a current event unless you're looking at some of the historical political cartoons. And so if you're not aware of some of the current events that are taking place, you might be able to do step 1 and 2, but if you don't understand the current event, you're not going to get the full meaning of the opinion of that cartoon. So you're asking the question, what is currently taking place that would cause the cartoonist to actually draw this cartoon? So I throw this one up here because this one's a little older, and unless you're understanding, the first part of it is this Ryan plan, we would not understand that this is the former Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. And so again, this is almost a little bit historical because Paul Ryan is no longer the Speaker of the House. And so to understand this cartoon, we would have to understand what the current events were surrounding the creation of this cartoon. And once you're all 3 steps, you've identified who, what, where, and when, you've identified a minimum of 3 symbols, you understand to some extent what the political cartoon current event is, now you can add all those together and answer the question, what does this cartoon mean? If this were written in verbal form, op-ed, what would it say? Because remember, political cartoons are nothing more than a visual op-ed. And so with the assignment, I'm going to ask you to look at a couple of cartoons. This is one of the cartoons that I'm going to ask you some questions on, just taking a few seconds to try to identify what the who, what, where, and when are, some symbols, what's the current event. Same thing with this one, okay? It might be easier to identify who and when, but but we have to look at the political cartoons. We have to understand a little bit of the relationship between these two characters. We also have to understand a little bit about this idea of fake news to fully understand what this cartoon means. And finally, the third cartoon that I'm going to ask you to take a look at is one of the US Capitol buildings. So I'm giving you the where. So this is the United States Capitol building. But again, we've got to go through all three steps to finally understand what that possibly means. And so with that, I'm going to end the video, and I'm going to ask that you go through the rest of this Google form, fill it out, submit it, and we will talk about more political cartoons throughout the term. And that is why I think it's critically important that we actually have a lesson that we can come back to determine what are the steps to understanding political cartoons, similar to how we would analyze a written op-ed. So if there are no questions that you, and if you do have questions, by all means, you have the ability to email me, but we'll take questions tomorrow in class. Otherwise, complete the assignment and I will. Great afternoon, evening.